So, Namaskar, all of you. So, today we will be starting with the orientation class of Civil Services Optional Law. So, this basically would cover both your UPSC and OPSC, okay, the law option. Of course, there is a little bit difference in the syllabus, which we will see that in UPSC, you also have to study administrative law, okay, whereas in UPSC, in OPSC, this administrative law is not, directly given, although some components we can see. So, for OPSC, if you see, there are basically four, okay, subsections of both the papers. So, let us first go to the analysis of the syllabus. Then we will go to the analysis of the previous year questions. Okay. तो प्रथमे अपने जदि देखिबा पेपर 1 section A, that is basically constitutional law of India. So one big advantage is that after you go through this in detail, your hold on polity and constitution will also grow. Okay, so the book that we will follow for this, obviously for constitutional law, the most preferred book is MP Jain. Okay, टिके मोटा बहीटा वॉल्यूमिनस बहीटा बट तार जो एनालिसिस अच्छी ओके सब्जेक्ट रो दैट इज एक्सीलेंट. सो दिस इज MP Jain. ओके, सो एटा MP Jain रो बुकटा हमें फॉलो करिबा. So what is there in the syllabus? Preamble and nature of Indian Constitution, general ideas on fundamental rights, right to equality, right to freedom of speech and expression, right to life and personal liberty, right to constitutional remedies, directive principle of state policies and fundamental duties, constitutional provision of the president and the relation with Council of Ministers, Governor and his powers, appointment and transfer of judges of Supreme Court and High Court, Supreme Court and High Court power and jurisdiction, Union Public Service Commission and State Public Service Commissions power and functions, distribution of legislative powers between Union and states, administrative relation between Union and states, emergency provisions, civil servants constitutional safeguards, parliamentary privileges, amendment of the constitution, principles of natural justice and judicial review of administrative action. So 20 submodules are there. Okay. Section B basically is international law, and here if you see out of the various books, textbooks that we have, one of the most common books that you can follow, okay, is that of Kapoor. Okay, that is quite famous book, and it is also point wise, and lot of things, lot of the answers in points you can get. Okay, so SK Kapoor, that is international law and human rights, that book we will be following. So these are the textbooks that I am talking about. Okay, notes obviously will be there, so that I will tell you a little bit later. So this is SK Kapoor, international law and human rights. Okay, so this is what we will be following. Okay, so this will be Okay, international law and human rights. This book would be sufficient, right? See, you have to go through the textbook. Okay, आपन textbook टा पढ़िया पड़िबो जदि आपन concept टा जानिया पे चाहछन. Notes जोड़ा रहइबो सेउडा exam specific रहइबो, to the points रहइबो. Okay, but I would always recommend, if you have time, then you better go for these books. Okay, first पढ़ी देबे सेटा, तापरे आपण हमर notes वरिका follow कर परिबो. So, nature and definition of international law, relationship between international law and municipal law, individuals, national statelessness, human rights and procedures available for their enforcement, state recognition and state succession, treaties, formation, application and termination, United Nations, its principal organs, powers and functions, General Assembly and Security Council, concept of human rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 1966, International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, 1966, and International Commission of Human Rights, New International Economic Order and Monetary Law, that is WTO, TRIPS, GATT, IMF, World Bank. Okay, here little bit you can see that the economic side of law that you have to study a bit. So this is basically your paper 1. Okay, we will also analyze the previous year questions, last 10 to 12 previous year questions, to understand what is the nature of the paper, right? Because बहुत जन एमती भी थिबे जो मान की नॉन लॉ बैकग्राउंड रो थिबे ताहेले भी अपन लॉ पेपर नहीं परिबे, which will also help you in other papers which you will see. Okay, then paper 2, law of crime, general principles of criminal liability, mens rea, actus reus, mens rea in statutory offences. Okay, stages of crime, preparation and criminal attempts, general exceptions, joint and constructive liability, abatement, criminal conspiracy, offences against the state, offences against public tranquility, offences against human body, offences against property, offences against women, defamation and prevention of corruption act 1988. So এই যে কনসেপ্ট গুলো দিয়েছি, কোয়েশ্চেন উইল বি বেসড অন দ্য কনসেপ্ট, সেটা সেকশন ওয়াইজ জেনারেলি কোয়েশ্চেন আসেনি. সো কেতে জনଙ୍କର ডাউটস ଥିଲା କି ଆମେ ଯଦି ଏଇ ଅପସନାଲଟା ନବୁ ତାହେଲେ ଆମେ ଆଇପିସି ବି ପଢିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ଆଉ ବିଏନଏସ୍ ବି ପଢିବାକୁ ପଡିବ. ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟଲି ଆଇପିସି କି ବିଏନଏସ୍ ର କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ ଆସିବନି. ଓକେ, ଡିଫେମେସନ ର କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ ଆସିଲା ତ ସେଠି ଆପଣ ଆଇପିସି ର ପ୍ରୋଭିଜନସ ବି ଦେଇପାରିବେ ଆଉ ବିଏନଏସ୍ ର ଓକେ ତାର ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରୋଭିଜନସ ଅଛି ସେମ୍ ପ୍ରୋଭିଜନସ ଅର ଏକ୍ସକ୍ୟୁଜ मी the matching provisions सेटा corresponding provisions आपण देई परिबे. ठीक है, जो कौन डिफरेंसेस अछि that depends on you. जण मु खाली बीएनएससी पढी छ, मते आईपीसी संगे कंपेयर करिबार नाही. योर विश, बट इट इज बेटर जेतला हम आंसर राइटिंग करिबा आपण देखिबे कि बोथ बीएनएस ओके आउ आईपीसी दीटा जगह आपण दो आपे पड, राइट. अच्छा, ताले नेक्स्ट हला आरो टेक्स्ट बुक टा कोन. So it depends on you. आपण एटा गोटे जेहेतु गोटे बेसिक टॉपिक और आपण ग्रेजुएशन रे जो भी बुक एटर फॉलो करथिबे, ओके, दैट यू कैन फॉलो. बेसिकली जदी आपण सेमिति किछि टेक्स्ट बुक पढी नांती, ओके, आपणकर ग्रेजुएशन रे ताले लॉट ऑफ बुक्स आर अवेलेबल फॉर दिस. ठीक है जी. तो जैसे कि बीएनएस की आईपीसी पे for example GD Gaur is there, okay, then SR Manani is there, other books are also there. ठीक है, the law of crimes I will be following the GD Gaur, okay, that book एबे तार नुआ एडिशन भी आछि जोडा BNS रो. ठीक है, तो सेटा आपण फॉलो करि परिबे, राइट. आपण जो भी बुक फॉलो करंतु गोटे कथा हला यू हैव टू बी थरो विथ द बेयर एक्ट. ओके, बेयर एक्ट आपण को प्रॉपर्ली देखिबार अछि. तार एग्जांपल्स राइट. सो आई विल बी यूजिंग दिस बुक जीडी गॉर. एटा भी ठीक भलो निमस, बट इट बोथ पॉइंट वाइज और बहुत भलो दैछे तर. ओके, तापर आसिला लॉ ऑफ टॉट. सो नेचर एंड डेफिनेशन, लायबिलिटी, based upon fault and strict liability, vicarious liability, state liability, general defenses, joint tortfeasors, negligence, defamation, nuisance, conspiracy, false imprisonment, malicious prosecution of Consumer Protection Act 1986. Okay, so again, torts, many books are available, right? Mu jo book ta follow kore generally, seta hela Bangya. Okay, so and other books are also there. It all depends on ଆପଣ କୋଉ ବୁକ୍ ପଢିଛନ୍ତି ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଗ୍ରାଜୁଏସନ ବେଳେ, ତ ସେଇଟା ହିଁ obviously ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ବେଶୀ ଓକେ କମ୍ଫର୍ଟେବଲ ରହିବ. ସୋ law of tort, okay, so I will be following Bangya. तापर नेक्स्ट आसला आपनकर जोटा मर्केंटाइल लॉ, कमर्शियल लॉ जोटा पार्ट आसला. So contract, formation of contract, factors vitiating consent, void, voidable, illegal and unenforceable agreements, performance and discharge of contracts, quasi contracts, consequences of breach of contract, contract of agency, sale of goods and hire purchase, formation and dissolution of partnership, and Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. जो तरह की negotiable instruments, the meaning of that, promissory notes, bill of exchange, checks, crossing of checks and dishonor of checks. Okay, this is the total syllabus. अच्छा, एटा भी mercantile law पाई कौन books हमें follow करिबा, text books I am telling you. Okay, so now contract पाई बहुत कुड़े books अछि. Okay, so principle of mercantile law, that is also Bangya and Raghuvanshi. Okay, that is also a good book. Seita apana follow kari paribe. ठीक अछि. नाले Avtar Singh and other books are also there. आपनको जोटा भल लागिला, but I will be following this book, that is Bangya and Raghuvanshi. Okay, law of contracts and mercantile law, right? Okay, Bangya and Raghuvanshi. So these are the books we will follow, but first you go through the books, because in our notes, which will be available in your app, all these things will be exam specific and will be discussed in details. So what should be the pattern? So before the starting of the class, that particular material will be uploaded to your app. You may go through it. So please remember that these PDFs which will be uploaded, they are basically for your reference. Okay, you cannot download them or print them. Okay, for that, if you require some downloadable material which you can have as a reference, you can WhatsApp me. I'll provide you that. Okay, but not this one. This one is little bit well researched and the format is a little bit better. So you can make your own notes from that, or the printable PDFs which I'll send you on request, you can print those and whatever extra things are there, you can write with them. Okay, next important thing is, what is the nature of this subject? Means in civil service, okay, Odisha civil service and civil service in general, what is basically the nature of this subject? Okay, so that I will be discussing now. We will go through, okay, so various years question papers, right? So that you will get an idea that when I'm preparing for law optional, okay, for civil services, okay, OS in particular, and for UPSC also. UPSC administrative law will be extra, right? So what are the things that you have to keep in mind? Okay, so if you'll see, the type of question which comes is mostly 99% theoretical. There are some questions, especially in commercial law, and some question in crimes, where you have problems, but then you can, if you are not very comfortable with problems, In the class, we will discuss the problems, okay, problem questions. But if you are not comfortable, then what you can do basically is that you can leave it, okay, because options will be there. Out of 12 questions, okay, you have to do any 10, right? So let us see what is the new pattern of questions. So what we will basically do, we will start from last year, okay, 2023, and we will slowly go back to 2005, okay. So first we'll start with the latest questions, and then we will go to the questions of previous year, okay, 2005 and all. So this is 2021's question. The Constitution of India is basically federal in nature, but it has strong centralizing tendency. Okay, justify the above with help of suitable examples. This question has come numerous times, both in general studies and also in law optional. Okay. Then, like should be treated alike and not unlike should be treated alike. In the above, contemplate Article 14 of Indian Constitution with the help of suitable case decisions. Okay, so that is equality before law and equal protection of law. That analysis we have to do. Then, so these are all 27. This is basically in the old pattern, but still then the same questions are repeated. Discuss the relationship between directive principle of state policy and fundamental rights. So you just remember this particular question. Okay, this has been repeated many times. How many directives have become fundamental rights? How some directives have become fundamental rights? Justify with the help of some landmark case decisions. Okay, so you can give examples accordingly. Okay, for example, 21A. Okay, Article 21A. Originally, it was Article 45. So, how directive principle of state policy have become fundamental rights. Okay, then question 2. Narrate about various type of jurisdictions of Supreme Court of India with help of relevant provisions of the Constitution of India. Okay, so types of, so these are all direct questions as you can see from the syllabus. Very few questions you will get which are analytical. So that is another big advantage of taking law. So on one hand, your polity is because you have to study constitutional law, not just polity and constitution. So you have to go beyond the level of Lakshmikant. So that is why you have to study MPGen. So a big portion of your prelims and mains is also covered. Contemplate on pardoning power of president and governor with help of some recent examples. Similarly, आपनको पेपर 4 रे ethics और integrity रे भी बहुत गुड़े जिनसे आपनको okay ये थ्रू advantage मिले जुबा. 3A Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution includes right to know. Explain the statement with reference to Right to Information Act 2005. Support your answer with case laws. Examine the distribution of legislative power between union and states ensured under the Constitution of India. Directive principles are fundamental in governance of country. Comment. Explain various grounds on which power of judicial review of administrative action may be exercised. What is the writ of prohibition? Okay, so these questions may seem very direct, but if you write a general studies type answer in this, obviously you will be getting lesser marks, right? So you have to write it as an optional. You know what is the standard of the optional? That is of honors level. Okay, honors level is basically more than graduation and little bit less than post graduation. Okay, in some subjects like medical science and all, I guess it is of the graduate level, but for law and all, it is of the honors level, more than graduation and less than post graduation. Then section B, international law is the vanishing point of jurisprudence. Comment. So this is a very common question. Many times in judicial service also you see this, and this is a very famous saying. Okay, so international law is the vanishing point of jurisprudence. Clearly state the composition of United Nations and discuss the role of Security Council in maintaining peace and law and order in different parts of the world. Narrate about international recognitions and its legal impact. Question 6. Human rights are universal, independent, inalienable and inherent. Comment. Briefly discuss the role of human rights laws and its importance at national level. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights 1966 is meant for the first generation of human rights. In view of the above, discuss various generations of human rights. What do you understand by right of self-determination? How this right is significant with regard to International Covenant on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights 1966. Discuss the role of IMF and World Bank in maintaining the fiscal balance throughout the world. What are the main objectives for their establishment? How treaties are formed, applied and terminated? Are they binding on the nations which are signatory of such treaty? Explain with reasons. So this is paper 1, okay, of that year. Now let us go to paper 2. Distinguish any three of the following with help of decided cases. Okay, common intention and common object, voluntary non-fit injury and contributory negligence, criminal misappropriation and criminal breach of trust, public nuisance and private nuisance. Out of these, any three. Discuss in detail the common law principle of ignorantia facie, do excusat, ignorantia juris, non-excusat. Okay, so ignorance of fact and ignorance of law, right? Explain with help of decided cases. Then these are the problem-based questions. A in a great fire pulls down houses in order to prevent the conflagration from spreading. He does this with the intention in good faith of saving human lives and property, but as a result of A's act, B loses his limb. Discuss A's liability under Indian law. Discuss in detail the Indian law with regards to criminal defamation. Do you think such a law is valid, keeping in mind the constitutional guarantee of speech, free speech? A says, I am not surprised that Z's book is foolish and indecent, for he is a weak man and a libertine. Do you think such an imputation amounts to defamation under Indian law? What do you understand by the maxim res ipsa loquitur? Discuss with the help of decided cases. A woman claimed to have undergone the sterilization operation at AIIMS Public Hospital, New Delhi for sterilization procedure after birth of her second child. The operation took place in July 2018 and a certificate was also given to her. However, the sterilization operation was not successful and the woman delivered a child in December 2020. It is also true that she was informed about the pregnancy in May 2020 and she chose to continue with the same. After the birth of her third child, she approached the court with a claim of Rs 50 lakhs as compensation for the medical negligence as the claim for bringing up the child. The hospital claimed that there are chances of failure of sterilization operation and she knew the same as evident from her signature on consent form signed and submitted at the hospital by her. Do you think she will succeed? Okay, so these type of cases which are basically the problem cases, okay, and we generally deal with it in a particular format, okay, which we follow for the judicial exams, okay, that is the FIRAC framework, okay. What is this FIRAC framework? So F, first we will give the facts of the case, okay, I, issues, okay, then R, that is the regulations, means the laws and the rules which will be applied in the case, okay. So A, that means basically what steps will be taken, okay, in this particular case, that is application, and C, that is the conclusion or the finally the verdict, or okay, suppose it the question is asking us to decide. Here it is asking, will she succeed? Okay, so finally the conclusion has to be given here. In this format, we can answer this particular question. Write on any three of the following: past consideration, offer and invitation to treat, wagering agreements, liability to pay for non-gratuitous acts. If you see that these are just repetition. If you see 10 years question, a charita jaka aguru podi search. Okay, what do you understand by the principle of nemo dat cured no hape? How far this principle has been incorporated in Indian law, and what are the exceptions to its application in India? Differentiate between partnership and company. Write a detailed note on Indian law of contract regarding fraud as ground that vitiates free consent of the parties. Distinguish fraud and misrepresentation. The general presumption that every man is best judge of his interest is suspended in case of children. Discuss in the light of decided cases. Discuss in detail the steps taken by courts to evolve the principles for protection of individuals against the possibility of exploitation in case of standard form of contracts with help of decided cases. Okay, so this is 2021's paper 1 and paper 2. Now let us go to another year. This is also 2022. Okay, so here the new pattern basically starts. 2022 and 23 we are having with us. So fundamental rights are the most essential. So here, 12 questions are given. You have to attend any 10. So the advantage here is that even if you are leaving out some parts, or you don't want to go for that problem questions, still you have some space for you. Fundamental rights are more essential for attainment by the individual of his full intellectual, moral and spiritual stature. In this context, discuss against whom can fundamental rights be claimed. Explain the meaning of the term state in part 3 of the Constitution of India in light of case laws. Okay, so this is very, very important that you have to give the details of Article 12, and 6 or 7 important points are there. Who can be a state? Okay, who will come under the definition of the state under Article 12? Okay, so does judiciary come under the definition of state? Okay, so for that we have to give separate case laws. Judiciary when adjudicating judicially, and when adjudicating administratively. So Supreme Court has dealt both of these subparts differently, right? So that is the reason we need to follow a book like MPJM, where we will get the details. Okay, elucidate the significance of preamble of the Constitution of India. Can the preamble be amended? Okay, a declaration of fundamental rights is meaningless unless there is an effective judicial remedy for their enforcement. What are the judicial remedies provided in the Constitution of India for the enforcement of fundamental rights? Differentiate between prohibition and certiorari. So these are all like 15 marks. So here comes the big change. Se aguru jo ame dekhiथिलु से ओडा सब 20-30 मार्क क्वेश्चन उडा थिला आउ सेटी सेमती किछि वर्ड लिमिट एते भी फोकस रे नथिला. फॉर एग्जांपल आमे जो लास्ट ईयर रो देखुथिलु, if you can see the instructions, so you will find that सेमिति किछि एते स्ट्रिक्ट इंस्ट्रक्शंस आपै नथिला. See the figures in the right hand, they tell you about the marks. So you should attempt these many questions, whatever. Word limit was not given, right? So if you can write fast, so you can write 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages. There was no focus on the word limit. However, starting this particular year, it is 2022. Okay, very specifically they are telling that 250 words you have to write, which would be in the paper they give 1 page or 1 1/4 page. Okay, and otherwise you will not be able to complete the paper, right? So that is the thing. A declaration of fundamental rights is meaningless unless there is an effective judicial remedy for their enforcement. What are the judicial remedies provided in Constitution for India for enforcement of fundamental rights? Differentiate between certiorari and prohibition. So question 4, what is the meaning of failure of constitutional machinery in a state? To what extent has Supreme Court put a check on motivated and arbitrary dismissal of state governments by center under Article 356? Okay, so first we have to discuss what is this failure of constitutional machinery, what are the components of failure of constitutional machinery, okay, and then we have to, because it's a 15-mark question, we can't write a lot of things, okay, then Bommai case we have to discuss. Then question 5, so all the available papers on OPSC website that we will be discussing one by one once we finish a particular chapter. So chapter wise questions also from previous year questions, that also you will get in your app, okay, once we start the live classes, that is from tomorrow. Discuss the basis and test of reasonable classification under Article 14 of Constitution of India. Basis and test, okay, does enactment of a law applicable to a single individual violate the right to equality as enshrined under the Constitution? Question 6, what constitutional safeguards are available to civil servants under the Constitution of India? Explain this requirement of reasonable opportunity of being heard prescribed under Article 311(2) of Constitution. Can such opportunity be dispensed with? Discuss the limits of the amending power of Parliament. Can the Parliament amend fundamental rights? Discuss in brief the legislative relation between the center and state, and when and in what circumstances can Parliament legislate on subjects enumerated in the state list. Discuss the powers of governor of a state. What are the discretionary powers of governor of a state? While certainty of law is important in India, it cannot be at the cost of justice. In the light of this statement, explain curative petition. What are the essential requirements and procedure involved in a curative petition? Discuss with the help of relevant case laws. Distinguish between fundamental rights and directive principle of state policy in the Constitution of India. They are both inconsistent with each other. Discuss in light of judicial decisions. And last question. So out of 12, you have to attend only 10. Explain the meaning of expression personal liberty in Article 21 of Constitution of India as interpreted by Supreme Court. Discuss the legal development of Article 21 with reference to A.K. Gopalan versus State of Madras and Menka Gandhi versus Union of India. Then Group B. So here 6 questions are given. You need to answer any 5, and this will be basically 20 marks and 300 words. What are human rights? In this context, emphasize the significance of UDHR. What are the functions of Security Council of United Nations Organization? Discuss the veto power granted to its permanent members. What is the importance of treaty under international law? Explain the various steps in conclusion of an international treaty. Explain the relationship between international law and municipal laws. How has this relationship impacted domestic legal framework? What do you understand by recognition of state under international law? Can such recognition be withdrawn? Who are the subjects under international law? Explain the status of individuals under international law. Okay, so 6 questions are there. You have to write any 5 of them. Okay, 1 question you can leave. Right. So this is paper 1. Similarly, that year's paper 2. So this is paper 2, laws of crimes and tort. What is the difference between the term likely to cause death and ordinary course of nature to cause death? Explain in the light of relevant legal provisions and case law. X intending to kill Y shoots at him, but the shot misses him and accidentally shoots Z, whom he never intended to injure. Z dies on the spot. Discuss the guilt of A. See, you will see that most of these are direct from the illustration of the Bare Act. Bare Act जो illustrations देची, okay, से थ्रू सीधा questions पढ़े थे. Explain the principle of contributory negligence with illustration. What are the defenses available in case of contributory negligence? What is dowry death? State briefly the law relating to dowry death with the help of some illustrative cases. What is the difference between section 498 and 304B of the Indian Penal Code? Discuss the principles of law laid down in Reynolds versus Fletcher and MC Mehta versus Union of India. State the applicability of these principles in present scenario. Explain the doctrine of res ipsa loquitur. Okay, repetition. Then you'll find that 70-80% of the questions are repeated. If you have covered last 10 years questions, then mostly you are ready for the exam. The Prevention of Corruption Act 1988 was amended by Prevention of Corruption Act 2018. Explain by pointing out major changes. Under what circumstances is a contract without consideration valid? What are the main features of Consumer Protection Act 2019? Also discuss the consumer rights guaranteed under Consumer Protection Act 2019. Whether a promise to pay time-barred debt is valid, and if so, under what conditions? What do you understand by expression caveat emptor? What exceptions have been admitted to the scope of this principle? Define sale of goods and distinguish it from hire purchase. Explain the maxim delegates non prote delegate. A delegate cannot further delegate. Discuss the implications of this maxim in relation to agency and state the exceptions to this rule. Distinguish between void and illegal agreements. Differentiate between following terms with the help of illustrations: extortion and intimidation, criminal force and assault. How and when can a person take the unsoundness of mind as a defense against criminal liability? What is the difference between medical and legal insanity? Discuss the criminal law related to necessity as a ground of excuse from criminal liability. Explain the maxims injuria sine damno and damnum sine injuria, citing relevant case law. How are damages awarded under a contract different from those awarded for committing a tort? Question 12. Write short notes on the following: doctrine of quantum merit and quasi contracts. Then group B. Explain the law relating to constructive liability. Distinguish between the words common intention and common object as they are used in section 34 and section 149 of IPC. Refer to relevant case laws on the point. X instigates Y to murder Z, but Y refuses to do so. Has X committed any offense? If so, what? A and B commit the murder of C, but there was no pre-arranged plan between them in this regard. Can A and B be convicted for the murder of C under section 302 and 34 of IPC? Give reasons and mention case laws, if any, on the point. 14. Explain the essential elements of robbery. When does robbery become dacoity? What offense is committed when the offender, while committing the above offense, causes death of any person? Elucidate the marital rape law that has been extensively amended through Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013. Question 15. There is a distinction between tort and crime, but there are various wrongs which find place both under criminal law and law of torts. Comment. Distinguish between tortious and contractual liability. Question 16. What conditions are necessary for converting a proposal into a promise into an agreement, and an agreement into a contract? Illustrate your answer. X teaches her parrot to recite an offer and sends the parrot to Y. The parrot repeats the recitation before Y, who says yes to the offer. Is it a valid offer and acceptance giving rise to an agreement? Give reasons. Define attempt. How are attempts to commit offences made punishable under Indian Penal Code? In cases where no express provision is made for punishment for such an attempt. X threw acid on the face of Y, a young girl. Discuss the liability of X under IPC. Last question. Discuss the competency of a minor and legal representative of a deceased person to become a party to a negotiable instrument under the Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. Under the Indian Contract Act 1872, minor's contract is void. Explain it with exceptions. Okay, so it is 2022, right? So the pattern has become more challenging in the sense that now you have to write, okay, more questions you have to attempt. So, and time per question has become obviously less. So that part also you have to see. So this is 2020 question. Well, I'll skip that. In the class we will discuss. Okay, this year's question 2023. Let us see that one first. Okay, this is this year's 2023 paper. So India is said to be a quasi-federal state. Discuss the idea of federation with unitary bias in the context of distribution of legislative powers under the Indian Constitution. Question 2. What is meant by fundamental rights? Are fundamental rights available against fellow citizens too? If there is a conflict between two fundamental rights of citizen, whose right shall prevail? Discuss in light of judicial discussion. So now you see these questions are little bit, okay, these are not direct questions. Some of them are direct, but some questions are little bit analytical. Right to know is included in right to free speech and expression. Okay, so this is a repetition of the question which we had seen. Discuss with reference to case laws. Right to privacy is protected as an intrinsic part of life and personal liberty enshrined under Part 21. It is written Part 21, Article 21, right? Article 21 of Constitution of India. Elaborate the statement in light of Supreme Court decision of Justice K.S. Puthuswamy versus Union of India. Okay, so that is right to privacy. The office of President under Indian Constitution has been designed to be largely that of a figurehead. Explain with reference to decided cases. Referring to constitutional provisions, discuss the manner of appointment of judges of higher judiciary and elucidate the procedure for transfer of judges of the High Court. Mention relevant Supreme Court judgments. Judicial legislation is antithetical to the doctrine of separation of powers as envisaged in the Indian Constitution. So judicial legislation, okay, is a burning topic. In this context, justify the filing of large number of public interest petitions, praying for issuing guidelines to executive authorities. Discuss the powers and function of UPSC. Okay, whether its chairman members can be appointed as governors after expiry of their terms. Discuss the doctrine of pith and substance relating to distribution of legislative powers between union and states with the help of leading judicial decisions. Enumerate and briefly discuss the emergency provisions as contained in Indian Constitution. How far is the satisfaction of President subject to judicial review? What are the effects of proclamation of national emergency on fundamental rights? The issue of parliamentary privileges has been a bone of contention between Parliament and judiciary. Analyze the statement in light of decided cases and explain the significance of rule of audi altum partem in administrative decision making and state the circumstances under which post-decisional hearing can effectively satisfy the mandate of natural justice. Then Group B, what is the nature of international law? Do you agree that international law is vanishing point of jurisprudence? Again, repetition. Okay, give reasons for your argument or disargument. So this is a common question which comes. Define nationality. What are the modes of acquisition and loss of nationality? What is the position of nationality of married women? Briefly discuss the impact of UDHR and related covenants on Indian Constitution. What do you mean by state? Define and distinguish between state recognition and state succession. What are the legal effects of recognition? Define international treaty and explain the growing importance of treaties in modern international law. Can a multilateral treaty be terminated? If so, on what grounds? Explain. What are the parameters of contentious jurisdiction exercisable by International Court of Justice? So this is 2023, means last year. Okay, paper 1. Now coming to paper 2. The scope of common object as contemplated by section 149 of IPC is much broader than the concept of common intention enshrined under section 34 of IPC. Substantiate this statement with landmark decided cases. A writes to B offering him to sell his house at certain price. B at the same time and on the same day writes a letter offering to buy the same house at the same price. The two letters cross each other. Is there a contract between A and B? Discuss the light of relevant provisions of Indian Contract Act 1872. Punishment is primarily used as method of protecting society by regulation of criminal behavior. Explain this statement in light of relevant sections of IPC. Also discuss various types of punishments that can be inflicted on the accused under the provisions of IPC. So you see here it BNS ro kichi basically deini, but amar jo model answers roibo seta BNS ro point of view ro bi roibo. Okay, for example, your new punishments have been added in BNS. Okay, community service ko apna add karchandi. In the light of Supreme Court's decision in case of Radheshyam and others versus State of Rajasthan and another 2024. Okay, pura nua case. Okay, at least jettabale main seitila. Okay, earlier this year. Discuss the distinction between sale and agreement to sell under Sale of Good Act 1930. Elucidate the essentials of malicious prosecution under law of tort. Substantiate your answer with landmark judgments. Explain different forms of offences of outraging the modesty of women in the light of Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013. Discuss the evolution and development of rule relating to absolute liability in India. Support your answers with help of decided cases. A has an enlarged spleen. B knows this and gives him a kick on the abdomen which ruptures his spleen. Few days later, A dies in consequence of injury received. Discuss the guilt of B. Substantiate your answer with relevant sections of IPC and decided cases on this point. Question 9. What are the essential ingredients of an offence under section 138 of NI Act? Support your answer with relevant illustration and case laws. Arun places Raju with firearms at the outlet of a building and tells Mr. Ramesh that they will fire at him if he attempts to leave the building. What offence, if any, has been committed by Arun? Also differentiate between wrongful restraint and wrongful confinement with examples. Explain vicarious liability under law of tort. Also discuss the various tests promulgated to determine master-servant relationship. Decided the rights of consumer under Consumer Protection Act 2019. Elucidate the concept of unfair trade practices and restrictive trade practices under the said act. Then group B re dekhantu. Explain the dictum actus non facit. Okay, reum nisi mensi rea. Okay, how far is a motive necessary for determining a crime? Are there any exceptions to a dictum of mens rea? Substantiate your answer with case law. What are the essentials of a valid contract? Also explain various agreements which are specifically declared as void under Indian Contract Act. Distinguish between conditions and warranties as provided under the Sale of Goods Act 1930. What are the implied conditions and implied warranties? When can breach of a condition be treated as breach of warranty? Question 16. Discuss various stages in commission of an offence. Also elucidate the test for determining whether an act amounts to a mere preparation or an attempt to commit an offence. Substantiate your answer by leading judgments. Explain the doctrine of remoteness of danger, remoteness of damage, in the law of tort. In this context, also discuss the test for determining the remoteness of damages. Discuss the with help of decided cases. What do you understand by nuisance? Explain the essential of torts of nuisance. Is malice relevant in nuisance? Discuss with case laws. Okay. So, more or less you have understood the pattern. Now, we will discuss about the structure of the course. What is expected of you? Okay. जेतले आमे classes टा start करिबा कालीठू तो आपणकर रिक्वायरमेंट्स कौन अच्छी केते आपनको लेखिबा पई पड़िबो ओके हाउ यू विल सबमिट इट ओके दोस थिंग्स वी विल डिस्कस नाउ राइट सो ओवरऑल जदि मु कहबी लॉ टा काहा को नबा कथा सो यू सी द कंटेंट ओके मोस्टली जो माने लॉ पढ़ी चंती माने एलएलबी कर चंती फॉर देम ऑब्वियसली इट इज द ओके करेक्ट चॉइस काली जोटा हमें डिस्कस करथिलु हाउ टू चूज ऑप्शनल तो से जो गंगा डॉक्ट्रिन हमें कहिथिलु सो से जी टा फर्स्ट आसला आपनको ग्रेजुएशन सब्जेक्ट संगरे ओके केते सिनर्जी रहउची सो अनलेस लाइक यू नो आपण गोटे ग्रेजुएशन करचंदी एमती कि लाइक आपणकर मेनली इंटरेस्ट नथिला सेटा करया पई बट आपण ड्यू टू वेरियस रीजंस आपण सेटा करचंदी ओके ता छड़ा ओके ता छड़ा जहा भी आपणकर माने कोन जो भी कंडीशन रे आपण ग्रेजुएशन ता करचंती राइट ऑब्वियसली आपणको ग्रेजुएशन सब्जेक्ट ओके आपणकर कोनोसी ता ऊपर किछि गोटे होल्ड थिबो राइट सो then you should take your graduation subject if you have interest in it and because you would be having some knowledge of it okay exceptional case ta prathame कहली जोठी कि due to some reasons किछि आउ किछि सीट मिललानी कि आउ किछि सब्जेक्ट मिललानी मु बाध्य होई कि पढली मोर इंटरेस्ट भी नै सेतरे किबा तार सेटा एते टेक्निकल अछि और मु आ भितरे टच भी छाडी सारलेन तार राइट सो लॉ जदि आपण सेमती आपण लॉ करि नांती किंतु आपण लॉ टा ऑप्शनल भलिया नबा पई चाहू चंती ताले भी इट इज मैनेजेबल ठीक अछि ताले भी आपण ताको मैनेज करि परिबे ओके सो मु हमरो जो क्लासेस रो डिटेल्स करिका कहि दोची सो बेसिकली हमरो स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द और द टाइम टेबल ऑफ द क्लास जदि मु कहिबी ताले हमरो रहउची मंडे ट्यूसडे एंड थर्सडे हैला टाइमिंग रहउची 12 to 2 pm हैला आउ हमको एटा लागिबो 3 to 4 months कंप्लीट करिया पे 3 to 4 months रे आपन को कोर्स कंप्लीट होची बट एडवांटेज कोन रहउची आपन को जो ऐप ता अछि सेटा टिल सक्सेस मींस सेटा 30 इयर्स पर्यंत वैलिड है तो जो जो नुवा बैचेस पुनी वर्ष पर आउथरे स्टार्ट होबा एंड ऑल यू विल हैव एक्सेस टू इट जो पर्यंत आपन पाउनांती आउ कोन कोन एथर रहइबो तो स्मार्ट नोट्स आपन को रहउचे एतरे ओके त माने गोटे तो मु टेक्स्ट बुक कथा कहली नोट्स हला नोट्स हला क्लास आगुरु जो हमें पढ़िबा ओके तो ता आगुरु आपन कुछ नोट्स दिया हिथिबो यू कैन गो थ्रू ओके बिफोर द क्लास सो दैट क्लास रे आपण डिस्कस करिका कर परिबे क्लास टा गूगल मीट रे हबो लाइव क्लास टा तो जा डाउट ऑनलाइन पिला माने डायरेक्टली पचारि परिबे ऑफलाइन पिला तो एज सच ओके दे कैन यू नो क्लियर देयर डाउट्स ऑफलाइन स्टूडेंट्स को आउटे एडवांटेज कोन अछि ना आपनकर सकाळ 8 रु संध्या 8 हमर रीडिंग रूम आपण यूज कर परिबे ओके रीडिंग रूम 6 दिन जाको खोला वेडनेसडे खाली गोटे दिन बाद जो इंस्टीट्यूट क्लोज था तो सेटा दैट इज एसी रीडिंग रूम एंड दैट इज ओनली फॉर आवर स्टूडेंट्स तो से आपण यूज करि परिबे से रीडिंग रूम ता क्लासरूम स्टूडेंट्स ठीक अछि तापरे आउ कोन कोन आपण को रहउची ए जो हमें देखिलो दैट इज 2005-6 to 2023 की लास्ट एग्जाम जेबे हेची ओके 2023 आपनकर प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस जोडा मेंस रो पेपर 1 पेपर 2 रो सॉल्व सेडा अपलोड हे जिवो आपनकर ओके ऐप रे राइट तापर जो टेस्ट सीरीज रहउची जेमति कि आपण 2023 रो टेस्ट सीरीज ता भी ऐप रे देखि परिबे that will also be included there ताकू मिसे देले आउ अलगा किछि आपन को दरकार पडिबन आपन को काम हैला ए जो नोट्स करिका थिबो से नोट्स रे जा पढाई छि ता रिलेटेड मेंस रो क्वेश्चंस थिबो यू नीड टू राइट दोस क्वेश्चंस यू टेक योर टाइम से दिन जत न कर पाछन 2-3 दिन भितरे केना आपन को 4 दिन ऑफ मिलु छि वीक रे 3 दिन ही क्लास होछि तो सेगुडा लेखि की लाइक ईच सब्जेक्ट रो 4टा की 5टा क्वेश्चन थिबो तो इन ए वीक यू हैव टू राइट अराउंड 10 to 15 क्वेश्चंस ओके सेटा आपन को रिलीजियसली लिखिया पड़िबो लिखिया पे को पड़िबो से क्वेश्चन जो दिया आइथिबो त मॉडल आंसर भी देथिबो बट से मॉडल आंसर अगेन यू हैव टू रीड एंड यू हैव टू राइट सेटा बहुत इंपोर्टेंट डायग्राम्स केमति आपन करिवो ओके सेटा भी बहुत इंपोर्टेंट आपन भाबु चंती एटा लॉ पेपर तो एथरे डायग्राम किछ दरकार नहीं हमरो प्रॉपर मार्क्स पाया पई ओके रेलेवेंट डायग्राम्स आपन करया पे पड़िबो ठीक अछि तो से मॉडल आंसर्स रे से डायग्राम्स करिका भी आपनकर थिबो ठीक अछि तो ताकू केते आपण यूटिलाइज करि परिबे केते इम्बाइब कर परिबे केते रिप्रोड्यूस कर परिबे ओके एग्जाम पेपर ऊपर सेटा आपनकर प्रैक्टिस ऊपर डिपेंड करिवो ओके आ जो क्लास गुरा होची सेगुडा गूगल मीट रे हबो 24 आवर्स परे आपनका ऐप रे रिकॉर्डेड क्लास ता थिबो यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू मिस एनीथिंग सपोज मु कोर्ट रे अछि बिकॉज़ मोस्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स हु हैव जॉइंड जण जण छडा से माने सब प्रैक्टिसिंग एडवोकेट्स अछंती ए जो 3 वर्ष रूल हे गला ओजेएस पई जुडिशियल सर्विस पई मोस्ट ऑफ यू आर प्रैक्टिसिंग सो आपण जदी से टाइम रे भी करि पाउनांती 12 ରୁ 2टा ताले आपण निजो टाइम जेतले भी आपण फ्री अछंती वन डे परे तो से क्लास टा देखि देई परिबे ठीक अछि मेन जिंस हला आपण नोट्स टा थर थर पढिबे आउ आपण लिखिबे यू हैव टू राइट केतबेले आपण लिखिबे यू फाइंड आउट द टाइम ओके बट यू नीड टू राइट सेटा आपनकर मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट जिंस रह okay so we will meet tomorrow okay when we are starting the first class हमें syllabus हिसाब रे जिबा constitution रो जो constitution and administrative law actually OCS रे administrative law ता नहीं but UPSC रे अछि okay so since it would be a combined batch for both मु दीटा जगह कवर करिवि administrative law अच्छा administrative law पई जेतु एपटे नथिला मु क्लास रे कहबी जदी आपण चाहूचंती को बुक फॉलो करिया पे सो मैसेज वुड बी ए गुड बुक ओके इन द क्लास आई विल टेल यू ठीक अछि तो सो आवर यू नो एम इज लाइक वी हैव टू कंप्लीट इन 3 to 4 मंथ्स ओके सो आगुरु टिके पढी के अपन जदी आसीबे क्लास आगुरु से जो नोट्स करिका ताले अपन को बेसी सुविधा हो सो यू कैन आस्क क्वेश्चंस एंड वी कैन डिस्कस थिंग्स राइट सो बेस्ट विशेस टू ऑल ऑफ यू सो टुमारो वी विल बी स्टार्टिंग दिस ओके गूगल मीट रे हबो आपनकर आईडीज को जो जीमेल आईडी अपन दैचंती सेठी की आपनकर लिंक ता पळेबो इनविटेशन लिंक ता से उतरो डायरेक्टली जॉइन करिवे अपन जस्ट क्लिक ऑन इट एंड इट विल ओपन ताको कॉपी पेस्ट नहीं की करिवेनी गूगल मीट रो कोड ताको बिकॉज़ एगुडा कोन ना इट इज यू नो से रिक्वेस्ट आ आसीबनी राइट ओनली द एम्बेडेड लिंक्स टू क्लिक करिके अपन डायरेक्टली जॉइन कर परिबे सो आई विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट थैंक यू